Hi, I'm Caspian from Strumtree, and in today's video we're going to be looking at how chords work, and in particular how triads in the C major scale work. We're going to be looking at the chords C, D minor, E minor, F, G and A minor. We're not looking at B diminished because B diminished is quite a rare chord, but hopefully you've heard or played most of those chords before. So let's start talking about what a chord is. A chord is a group of notes played together to create a nice harmony. The most basic type of chord is a triad, and that means 3 notes together. So I'm going to explain this by writing out the C major scale. So I've written out the C major scale: C, D, E, F, G, A and B, and if you like you could go back to C. And underneath there's a number corresponding to each note. So let's build a triad. We'll start with C, and all we have to do is stack 2 other notes from the C major scale on top of C. So if we want to build the C major triad, we choose number 1, which is C, and then number 3, which is E, and number 5, which is G. C, and then E, and then finally G. So these are the notes of the C major chord: C, E and G. Let's try that out on our guitar. So we're probably familiar with the C chord on the guitar, right? This is the chord that we strum. But how does a chord on the guitar actually work? Well, when you put your finger down on a fret, wherever it is, it shortens the length of the string and therefore changes the pitch when you pluck that string. So for example, we can pluck this open E string at the bottom of our guitar, and that's an E. But if we put our index finger down in the 1st fret, that E goes up a semitone and changes to an F, and then F sharp, and then G in the 3rd fret, and so on. So if you put your fingers down in a certain pattern on the guitar, you shorten the length of each of the strings to actually change what each individual note is. With that in mind, when we play the C major chord on our left hand, we're actually changing all the strings so that they're either a C, an E, or a G. And in the corner next to me over here, I'll leave a fretboard diagram of the guitar so you can see exactly what all the notes are on your guitar. So if you play the C chord, we're activating certain notes on the fretboard. In the C chord, we usually don't play this string at the top. Even though that technically is an E and part of the chord, it just sounds a bit murky in the voicing. But if we look at the shape and start on the A string, the 3rd fret of the A string is a C, then the 2nd fret on the D string is an E, then we've got the open G string, now up to the B string, but it's the B string 1st fret, and that becomes a C, and then the final note of our chord is the open E string. So we've got C, E, G, C, E, and those are all notes of the C major chord. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's how a chord works on the guitar. Let's have a look at the other chords in the C major scale. So next we're on the note D, and we want to build a triad out of D. So let's have a look. We've got D, let's call that our first one. 2, 3, now we'll write F above, that's our 2nd note. And then we go 2 steps after F, 4, 5, and A is going to be our 5th this time. And it's the same thing as our 1, 3, 5, but this time we're shifting the notes over 1 space. So D, F and A. And this creates the D minor chord. So if you've played D minor on the guitar before, you know that we put our fingers in this configuration and we strum the bottom 4 strings. D, and the 2nd fret of the G string is an A, the 3rd fret of the B string is a D, and the 1st fret of the E string is an F, remembering from before, D, A, D, F. So all the notes that we strum in the D minor chord, D, A, D, F, are in this position on the left hand. Thus we create the D minor chord. And next you can look at the E minor chord. We're going to use the same principle. E, let's find our 3rd, so this will be 1, 2, 3. G will be our 3rd. So let's write down G. Now from here, E, that was our 1, 2, 3. G was our 3rd, 4, 5. B is going to be our fifth. So now we've got E, G and B. Let's see if our theory works. So in the E minor chord, we have an open E string, we've got a B on the second fret of the A string, we've got an E on the second fret of the D string, we've got the open G string, the open B string, and the open E string. And all those notes are either an E, G or B. Now once you get up to F, you can do the same thing. F will be our first note, 1, 2, 3. A will be our next note. But we run out of space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This time it loops all the way around the scale again and we get back to C. So the notes will be F, A, C. And the same thing with G, the notes will be G, B, D. And then for A, it's going to be an A minor chord with A, C and E. So I'm going to fill all of those in for you now. So we've got the C major chord, the D minor chord, the E minor chord, the F major chord, the G major chord, the A minor chord, and the B diminished chord. And it's using the same principles, root, third, and fifth. So if you ever want to understand how chords work, and you know how to play the A minor on guitar, for example, you can be sure that when you put your fingers down in that way, the notes will either be an A, a C, or an E. And you can do this with any chord, whether it's major or minor. And I hope you've learned something in this video. And sometimes these concepts in music theory can be a little hard to wrap your head around, but I hope you still learned something today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.